Are your people working hard but not reaching their full potential? The problem is not effort, it is development. At the Modern Observer Group, we transform workforce development into real performance. Our human-centered achievement programs help your team think better, communicate stronger, and execute at a higher level. That means higher employee engagement, stronger leadership, and measurable results across your organization. If you want a workforce that performs, leads, and delivers, it is time to invest in your people. Visit modernobserver.com and discover how the Modern Observer Group helps you build a workforce that wins.
The U.S. carries out strikes on Iran. Russia unleashes one of its largest aerial assaults. Ferrari shares fall on the debut of its electric car, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. The U.S. carried out strikes on missile launch sites and boats placing mines in southern Iran yesterday, characterizing the attacks as defensive. The strikes came hours after President Trump said that peace negotiations were proceeding nicely. Over the weekend, Trump suggested that a peace deal that would reopen the Strait of Hormuz and address Iran's nuclear ambitions was close. The president also floated the idea that Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and other countries involved in the deal should sign onto the Abraham Accords, which normalized relations between Israel and some Arab nations. Iranian officials, meanwhile, had said that although conclusions had been reached on some issues, no deal was imminent. The U.S. Secret Service fatally shot a gunman who opened fire at a White House checkpoint on Saturday evening, locking down the complex. The suspect, known to D.C. police, pulled a pistol near 17th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue around 6 p.m., firing towards the executive mansion before officers returned fire. A bystander was also wounded. President Trump was in the Oval Office and unharmed. The gunman never breached the grounds, and the FBI is assisting at the scene. The shooting marks the third White House security scare in a month after the April assassination attempt at the White House Correspondents Association dinner and the May 4th Washington Monument shooting. Russia launched one of the war's largest aerial assaults on Ukraine overnight Sunday, firing 90 missiles and 600 drones in a strike that killed at least 4 people and injured 83. Ukrainian President Zelensky said Kyiv was the primary target. Among the weapons used was the Oreshnik, a nuclear-capable hypersonic ballistic missile that reportedly flies at more than 10 times the speed of sound. Sunday's launch marked only the third combat use of the system in the war. Residential buildings, a school, a water supply facility, and the Chernobyl Museum in Kyiv were among the damaged sites. Ukraine's interior minister called the museum strike a deliberate attack on history, memory, and truth. Russia said the assault was retaliation for a Ukrainian drone attack on a student dormitory in Russian-occupied Staroblsk, which Kyiv denies. European leaders condemned the strike, and Poland scrambled fighter jets in response. Federal prosecutors on Thursday charged defendants in Minnesota's sweeping Medicaid and benefits fraud crackdown, accusing operators of autism centers, housing assistance companies, and child care programs of collectively stealing tens of millions of taxpayer dollars through fraudulent reimbursement schemes. The charges span multiple Minnesota assistance programs and include allegations of healthcare fraud, money laundering, wire fraud, and conspiracy to defraud the United States. Prosecutors allege the schemes involved fake autism service claims, inflated housing support reimbursements, and fraudulent child care payments, with intended losses totaling more than $90 million. The defendants used taxpayer money intended for vulnerable adults to buy luxury cars, expensive jewelry, and dozens of residential properties. Orange County fire officials said the risk of a vapor explosion at a damaged chemical tank at the GKN aerospace facility had been eliminated, but that other risks were still present, including the possibility of a less intense chemical explosion. Around 50,000 residents of Garden Grove, which sits approximately 20 miles southeast of Los Angeles, were still under evacuation orders yesterday. The storage tank contains approximately 7,000 gallons of methacrylate, which is used to make plastic parts. When the leak was detected, officials feared an explosion or the release of dangerous chemicals into the air, but they said yesterday a crack in the tank had led to cooling that reduced these risks. Tulsi Gabbard announced her resignation as Director of National Intelligence effective June 30th, stepping down from the nation's top spy post after months of reported friction with the broader intelligence community. In her resignation letter, Gabbard says she is deeply grateful for the trust you placed in me and for the opportunity to lead the Office of the Director of National Intelligence for the last year and a half. Gabbard said she was leaving the nation's top spy post to care for her husband, Abraham, who was recently diagnosed with a rare form of bone cancer. President Trump announced on Truth Social that Aaron Lucas, the Deputy Director of National Intelligence, would serve as acting DNI Director. The DNI oversees 18 federal intelligence agencies and serves as the President's principal intelligence advisor. Shares of luxury car maker Ferrari fell sharply on Tuesday, shortly after the company launched its first fully electric vehicle. The sports car manufacturer unveiled the Luce, which translates as light, at a venue in Rome, describing the choice of name as one that evokes clarity and direction. The highly anticipated model marks a departure from the aesthetic of typical Ferraris and comes even as other luxury car manufacturers, notably Porsche and Lamborghini, have scaled back on plans to launch their own EVs due to weak demand. That's the Raw Naked Truth for May 26, 2026. You can catch every episode of the Raw Naked Truth Daily News Brief, as well as our sister podcast, Carnivore Radio, with news analysis and commentary, and the rest of the Xvadio Podcast Network at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.